Hello. Being engaged in construction, up to 140 houses on one construction site, and facing the crisis, it became clear that building expensive houses is not difficult and many can do it. In a crisis, such houses are the first to experience a drop in sales and can bankrupt the developer. But to build good cheap houses is a real art, the task is very difficult, and you need to work hard on it. And building such houses in large numbers is an even more difficult task. And super cheap houses will be sold even in times of crisis. That graph shows that the cheaper the house, the more such houses can be sold. To build an ultra-cheap house, you need to use only materials with the lowest cost. I collected all possible and impossible materials that can be used in construction in one graph and found that the cheapest and most durable building materials from which you can build a house are wood, concrete, foam/mineral wool. Therefore, these materials have become the main ones in my technology. At first, I wanted to build using 3D printing, and for this I even bought a robot. And we developed, with my friend, a doctor of sciences in the field of concrete, who worked as a teacher in Germany for a long time, a special concrete for this, which hardens in 15 minutes. Just during this time the robot makes a circle and applies the next layer of concrete. The average house consists of 300 layers. Therefore, such a house could be built in 3 days in automatic mode. The technology made it possible to build stairs and a roof in the same way and to align, mill and paint walls in automatic mode. In theory, this was the cheapest way. But having the practice of working on a construction site, I refused this method, since it is impossible to achieve mass production by this method and transportation costs and installation and dismantling of a 3D printer will negatively affect the cost of the house. And I need mass production like cars, and I don't want to buy land, or be tied to some location, spend time coordinating each construction. I also ruled out the sale of already assembled houses, as they are limited by the size of the vehicle, the complexity and cost of transportation and installation. Therefore, I chose the production of ultra-cheap houses based of the constructor type, in the production of which a minimum of manual labor is used, transportation costs are lower, and buyers will be able to assemble the house themselves, while saving on the services of builders. The production of such houses is easily automated and scalable. Having even one factory, you can deliver houses all over the country. And so that transportation does not cause problems, the details of the house should fit on standard pallets. And after 6 years I managed to create such a technology. I used the construction of wooden parts that form a double wall outside and inside the house. The exterior and interior can look like wood or be painted, veneered or milled. Each detail of the wall can have its own unique pattern that will form into a large drawing on the wall of the house. And the size of each part does not exceed the size of a standard pallet. I used the construction of wooden parts that form a double wall outside and inside the house. The outer and inner side can look like wood or be painted, veneered or milled. Each detail of the wall can have its own unique pattern that will form a large pattern on the wall of the house. And the size of each part does not exceed the size of a standard pallet. After the assembly, the buyer receives a beautiful house and immediately with a finishing version of base with wall finishing, which saves considerable money. The house can be built in different ways. With a 2-layer or single-layer wall. With the filling of the walls with a special concrete developed by us when the wooden part performs the function of a fixed formwork or without concrete. It will depend on the client's wishes and local building codes. When using concrete in the construction of the house, 1 or 2 concrete walls of about 5 centimeters thick will be obtained. Since we will use a special concrete that is not much more expensive than usual, but has almost 30 times the hardening rate and about 3 to 5 times greater strength, this is similar to the thickness of ordinary concrete of 35 to 50 centimeters, for a double wall. So these are very strong walls despite the fact that they are so thin. You can sell such houses through Home Depot and other similar stores. The buyer sees the displayed pictures with houses and prices, pays for the house in the store, and we deliver all the parts and construction mix from our factory. According to my calculations that I did a few years ago, the cost of the walls of a house with an area of 120 sqf was no more than $10,000. Now, taking into account inflation, this figure will be higher, but it is still the cheapest house on our planet. And the buyer will assemble the house himself in a few days. It will be cheaper for buyers to build a new house than to repair their old one. I developed all the details for this house as 3D models on a computer and I managed to assemble a house from them. The program checked how all the elements were matching and connecting to each other. Here is this computer simulation version. The details of this house are of the same type and there are only about 20 differences. The configuration of the house can be created by the buyer himself, or we can offer already made projects. Perhaps when we build the first house, some small flaws may come to light, but in the process we will bring everything to perfection. I also built a Real house using a similar technology near Moscow and it really turned out to be very cheap. And I was able to sell it during the crisis due to the low cost when the property was not selling at all. We will probably have to coordinate our standard house projects for some regions of the United States on our own, so that our buyers would then show this approval and not waste extra time on it. Due to the fact that building codes are heavily regulated and approval processes take time, which can affect the speed of the start of sales and return on investment. As an option, I suggest at the first stage to create a factory for the production of furniture. Since the main woodworking equipment is suitable for both industries. Furniture production is much easier and faster to start. Even more, I have an experience in furniture production and been working in this field in a very modern joint Russian-Polish large production, having worked my way up from a machine tool adjuster, IT manager, logistics manager, head of the economic department, deputy director. In the first shift, the equipment can produce furniture, and in the second shift we will produce parts for the house and debug the construction of the house, assemble trial houses and make the first sales. As the sales of houses grow, we will broker this production to independent contractors. Since in order to achieve a low cost, we will need a more complex production that includes the entire cycle of wood processing, sawing, drying, etc. According to the proposed option, investments will begin to pay off very quickly. Having experience also in furniture manufacturing in the USA, I can say that the cost of the material for furniture was $5,000, and the selling price was $20,000. All furniture manufacturers that I saw in the USA had orders for 3 months in advance, but had very low automation of production of outdated equipment and, apparently, used a lot of manual labor. Furniture production must be done using Industry 4.0 technology. This technology allows you to manage machines and production almost without people. The same technology is needed for the production of houses. Since the labor of workers will increase the cost of finished products too much and make us non-competitive. Due to high salaries, production in the USA can be profitable only in conditions of high automation of production. Industry 4.0 is a new technology. One learned that there are already several furniture factories in Europe, and they have proved that it is successful and have absorbed all the production with low automation around them. They accept orders from the website and after 48 hours the customer can pick up his order. In manual mode, such production takes up to 2 weeks. Previously, the costs of equipment and its installation for furniture production will amount to about $3 to $5 million. For a productivity of 1,500 parts per day. 15 sets of furniture, if the profit from the set is determined at a minimum of $1,000 then per month it will be 15*1000 22 working days equals $330,000 per month. In about 1 to 2 years, these investments will return, depending on the level of automation of production. Those who independently produced furniture in manual mode began to order furniture from those who build using Industry 4.0 technology, since for them it is cheaper, faster and with higher quality than these customers could produce themselves. In this way, there are no poorly automated productions around the industry where companies use 4.0 technology. At the first stage, for the construction of houses, we need a 5-axis woodworking machine that supports Industry 4.0 technology so that later it would become a main part of the production. The price of such equipment is about $350,000 and 4 people including me. 3 powerful graphics computers, the workshop where the machine will be installed. A truck with a lift gate for transporting house parts. Software. A plot of land where you can collect test houses, raw materials and consumables and other equipment. If we assemble a house and it suits everyone, then we move on to the second stage. We buy additional machines for the organization of furniture production, such as edging, sawing, stackers, painting, conveyors, robots, etc. In parallel, we are releasing the second change of parts for the house. After the production of houses or furniture requires an increase in capacity, we create, taking into account the experience that we will acquire, an independent production for the manufacture of houses. I tried to briefly describe the strategy. I think this is enough for a general understanding of how the business can be developed. Let me know what you think.
Вот обещаю вам, что обязательно добьюсь того, чтобы правоохранительные органы обратили на это особое внимание. Вот сейчас неизвестно, чем это закончится, но работать будут интенсивно. Вот.